We are back yet again for Fantasy Football in 5. Our last episode was our best backups and handcuff options. This episode will be our best fantasy teams and divisions.
So if you haven't seen the last video, hit the big red button below. Alright, so some fancy relevant news that we have for you. Dorial Green-Beckham was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for an offensive lineman, I believe. This really hurts DGB's fantasy outlook. He was going to be, I think, the second receiver on Tennessee.
Second or third.
Now he's bumped down to third and maybe even fourth if Ruben Randall outperforms him. But that's sad because I really like him in Tennessee. Another news, Christian Ponder signed a one-year deal with the 49ers. He might start this year.
Yeah, with the, Blaine Garbage and Colin Kaepernick out there.
With the terrible quarterback situation out there, he might get a couple of games in.
Let's move on now. We wanted to talk about the best and worst fantasy teams, as in like the overall team. For example, the Arizona Cardinals, the New York Giants, whatever. Those teams as a whole, fantasy-wise. So starting out, what is your pick for the best fantasy team?
My pick would be the Arizona Cardinals, just simply because they have such a high-powered offense. You can't go wrong with any three of their receivers on your team. Carson Palmer signed another deal, keeping him in Arizona because he loves Bruce Arians. He loves the offensive system. You can't forget about David Johnson either. Very talented running back, top 4 running back, in the top 4 or 5 in the league. I really like the Cardinals to be the best fantasy team this year.
I agree, and they have a great defense to boot. So they're all around the board. They're a great team. I think they're one of the best. On the other spectrum, the worst fantasy football team, really all of the whole entire NFL and probably most high schools, anyways, would be the San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned it before, they have Blaine Garbage and Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. Now, Christian Ponder, which, that's just ugly as a Vikings fan. And so that they don't have any real stars. I mean, they have Carlos Hyde in the backfield, but other than that, they have no receivers who are going to be drafted. They have their defense that will never be drafted in 5,000 years, and there's no relevant people on that team.
I can't think of a worse team. We can't pick on the Browns now because Duke Johnson's very good. Corey Coleman's going to be good. I think Josh Gordon will be good. Gary Barnes is a very good tight end. All we have is the 49ers, but oh well. Alright, so now we're going to pick the best fantasy division, meaning like the AFC North, the AFC West, so on and so forth. So my pick for the best fantasy division as a whole would be the NFC South. Now, obviously, they have Cam Newton, they have star-studded quarterbacks. On all 4 teams, you have, obviously Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, and Jameis Winston, the rising star. They all have good wide receivers, and Kelvin Benjamin, Mike Evans for the Bucks, not Michael Jenkins, inside joke, but Michael Thomas and Brandon Cooks, and then who's the other team? Oh, Julio Jones. Great teams all around, great players on each individual team. I would draft a lot of players from the NFC South if I could.
Well, not to be, the devil's advocate or anything, but I'm going to say my NFC North. Come on. How did you miss them? They have Aaron Rodgers, probably the best quarterback out there to draft. They have Matt Stafford, who is a great quarterback. He's going to be slinging the ball around. They have, obviously, Teddy Bridgewater as a good backup quarterback. And they also have Jay Cutler, which we aren't going to talk about. And so then, if you look at the receivers, that's really where they shine in the NFC North. In Minnesota, they have Stephon Diggs and they have Laquan Treadwell, both probably going to be drafted in most drafts, probably all of them actually. And then in the Chicago Bears, they have Kevin White and Alshon Jeffrey, great tandem there. They have, in the Packers, have Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, as well as a couple other guys who might be slotted in as well on teams. And obviously the Lions, they have a bunch of receivers. They signed Marvin Jones, they have Golden Tate. Expect them to have a lot of receivers drafted from the NFC North. And then tight end wise, they have a couple of decent tight ends here and there, but I don't expect any of them to be great. But defense wise, they have the Vikings defense, which expect them to be drafted very high. And then you also have the Bears defense, who a lot of people are liking. Not sure if they're going to be drafted.
defense is the downfall of the NFC South.
I mean, look at the Saints, probably one of the worst
They
defenses
were
in the
historically
league.
one of the worst defenses last year. Yeah, I just think their offenses in the NFC South are better than the offenses in the NFC North.
I have to disagree. I just love the pure depth. I mean, tell me who on the Carolina Panthers, other than Kelvin Benjamin, is going to get drafted?
Greg
wide-
Olsen.
Wide
Wide receiver?
receivers. wise.
As a sleeper, Devin Funchess.
I mean, you could, as a sleeper, you could say Jarius Wright could be drafted. But anyways, enough of that. We have conflicting opinions there. Worst division. What do you think?
Worst division. I'm gonna go. I have to say with the NFC East. You know, in our power rankings video in April, I believe they were the worst division, in our opinions, and I just think they still are. I mean, yeah, Dez Bryant is a good receiver, but they don't have a whole lot of other talent, you know, in that division. Jordan Matthews is a good receiver. Sean Jackson's all right, but they have other receivers that'll balance that out. What else? What's the other? The Giants, they have Odell.
Giants, yeah.
But my point is that the offenses aren't very high-powered, other than the Giants. Their defenses are all bad. I'm just not a big fan of the NFC East.
I probably have to agree with you, and one that I am gonna throw out there, kind of surprising because we had them, I think, number 2 in our power rankings, the AFC West. Now, if you look at that division, they're great as a division standing wise, but they don't have very many fantasy stars. The Denver Broncos, I mean, all they have is Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and their defense. Like the Chargers, they have a couple of receivers who they signed who might be good, Keenan Allen as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at them, they don't have any great quarterbacks. They don't have a Peyton Manning like the Peyton Manning who threw 50 touchdowns, and so I don't expect that division to be that great.
I like the AFC West more than I like the NFC East, though. I would draft more players out of that division than I would the NFC East. Alright, that was Fantasy Football in 5, and thank you for watching. We did our Fantasy News in 5 minutes list because honestly, who would want to watch a 30-minute video on this topic?
Amen.
So this video was our best fantasy teams as a whole and divisions. Next video will probably be our team when we draft them, because our draft is coming up soon, so stay tuned for that and don't forget to subscribe.